everyone, I'm Chaney from Chaney Tech Time, and welcome to episode 5 of Chaney's Tech Talk. This week we're going to talk about the new MacBooks and AirPods from Apple that were announced on Monday. Like I said in the last episode, there's a lot of new things coming out around this time of year, so we're also going to cover the Google hardware event and the Samsung hardware event as well. But before we get into the new Apple products, I just wanted to mention that this podcast is on all of your favorite podcasting apps. You can listen to Chaney's Tech Talk on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Stitcher, YouTube, and on many more. Along with this, don't forget to follow Chaney Tech Time on Instagram and Twitter at cc_TechTime. We'll have links to that in the podcast description. Anyway, let's get right into the new MacBooks. So the biggest part of the event on Monday was the new MacBook Pros, and I've got to say they're pretty nice, and they're a major upgrade over their predecessors. The new 14-inch and 16-inch models are available to be configured with an M1 Pro CPU or an M1 Max CPU. More details on those chips later. In terms of the overall design, the screen has obviously changed to one that is full body, and they also pulled an iPhone move and brought a giant notch to the MacBook Pro. It's really weird because there's a giant notch, but it only has one camera, and they really should have just gone for a teardrop-style notch seen on some Android phones, since that would have looked way better. But anyway, along with a different screen, the keyboard is slightly improved. It's mostly changed to resemble the Magic Keyboard that's paired with the new iMac from earlier this year, so it has that circle-style Touch ID sensor, and it also has a physical row of function keys. Yep. Apple finally ditched the touch bar, which was really overlooked for many years, and finally put real buttons back on the MacBook Pro, and they're full-size, just like the Magic Keyboard. Now, on to one of the most important new features of the MacBook Pro, or rather a returning feature of the older MacBook Pros. There's actually real ports on the machine. Yeah, Apple actually brought an HDMI port and an SD card slot to the MacBook Pro, and including that, we finally have that thing that everyone wanted since they killed it off in 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, we finally have MagSafe 3. Apple brought that back to the MacBook Pro, and including that, they're still going to have the old Thunderbolt ports where you're using your docks and your old charging cables and everything like that. They're still going to work just fine. So this is it. New MacBook Pros with new screens, keyboards, and ports. Definitely an all-arounder machine in 2021. Now, on to something else. Apple also announced the AirPods 3, and they're basically sharing a similar design to the AirPods Pro, making it harder to tell the difference without looking at the AirPods themselves. There's a new touch sensor that lets you control music with swiping and tapping, and it also controls phone calls. It has upgraded sound, similar to the AirPods Pro, and they're water resistant. There's a new improved battery life, making it seem like you can be away from the wall charger for up to 30 hours. And speaking of batteries, the battery case has wireless charging, so you can use the same wireless charging pad that you use with your phone with your AirPods, which is a pretty nice convenience. So quite some new features, but nothing I would personally consider worth upgrading. But if you want discounted AirPods Pro with wireless charging, this might not be a bad idea. Now, last, but definitely not least, let's talk a little bit more about the M1 Pro and the M1 Max chips. So, the M1 Pro is a 10-core ARM CPU, and it also contains a 16-core GPU as well. It's 2 times faster than the M1, and it uses 70% less power than the M1. You can also configure it to use up to 32 gigabytes of RAM on the MacBook Pro, and it's overall a really good professional CPU for professional applications. Onto the M1 Max, this is the one that'll most likely be seen used in the Mac Pro when an ARM version gets released. Obviously, being Apple's most powerful SoC, it has the same 10-core CPU, but it has a 32-core GPU. Yep, 32 cores. This is going to allow you to do a lot of professional video editing on this SoC, and Apple even says that if you want, you can plug in 2 Pro XDR displays, a 4K TV, and use the built-in screen of the MacBook Pro all at the same time. 7.2 million pixels with this piece of hardware. So the M1 Pro and M1 Max are clearly very major upgrades, but if you can't take advantage of all of their performance, I would probably go with the previous gen MacBook Pro, since the M1 is still a great CPU, but if you're someone who really needs that extra horsepower for professional applications, The M1 Pro and M1 Max are great options. And on that note, that wraps up episode 5 of Chaney's Tech Talk. If you've got any suggestions for more content or new posts for Chay Tech Time, do leave them in the comments if you're watching on the website or YouTube or newly pentucketnews.com. Send me a voice message for Chaney's Tech Talk by going to anchor.fm/Chaney's Tech Talk. If you leave a message, I will play your messages and answer them on the show. I'm Chaney from Chay Tech Time, and this is Chaney's Tech Talk.